Dzień dobry, namaste, hola, bonjour. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Ken at 10. I hope you're well. If you haven't been here before, we broadcast daily about all things property and whatever's going on in the local area. We're based in Norbury, SW16. We're estate agents and we let and sell a lot of property. So how are you doing? Hope you're doing well today. Lots of things in the news today I wanted to go through. One of the things that really caught my eye, have you ever been to Disney? I like a Disney park. When we were younger, we used to always go to the Disney parks and do the thing, and stayed in some Disney hotels too. And the way that they really push the service side of their brand is quite amazing. I'll come on to why I'm talking about that in a minute. But one of the things that still today, actually, I remember we stayed on a golf course many years ago, my wife and I with some friends. And as you drive back rather to the resort, as soon as you get to the barrier, the security guard on the barrier is like, welcome home. And still to this day, we walk in our home sometimes and say to each other, welcome home. And they're apparently announcing plans to create several neighborhoods across the US. And these places are called Story Living. And the first group of houses are expected to be built in California. Disney says it wants people who live in these communities to make new friends while having the Disney experience. Interesting idea. Residents will be able to take part in activities such as cooking classes, water sports, and the company plans to build open spaces with public space and shops, restaurants, hotels, and beaches. Meanwhile, Disney employees, which the company calls cast members, will manage the properties. Anyone that's had the Disney experience will know what I mean by that. And they are a very high quality company who does really push customer service to the nth degree. So I'd be really interested to see how that works out. I suspect well, but time will tell. The London Mayor Sadiq Khan has launched a new housing enforcement officer qualification. And this is interesting. I mean, what he's basically doing is training up some of the underlings to come and be enforcement officers for housing. And that's instead of employing the environmental health officers who are highly qualified and highly in demand, but also very expensive. And that's what this is all about, really. It's a soundbite because, of course, he's going to clamp down on rogue landlords. How many times has he said rogue landlords in the last year? It seems to be an echo, doesn't it, in the place? Mortgage payments look like they're going to rise. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that's been watching regularly. Brits face paying £5,400 more this year on their mortgage, statistics suggest. Well, you'd have to have quite a big mortgage for that. That's if you have a mortgage of £450,000. On average, you'd pay £5,400 extra, which is a shocker, isn't it? It's a huge amount of money. L&C mortgage figures show this. The investment platform Best Invest Jason Holland said many households' finances will be squeezed over the coming months with rising prices, higher taxes, and higher borrowing costs. But economist James Smith suggested the markets are overestimating the pace of rises, predicting a maximum of 3 this year. And of course, nobody really knows. It might well be that in the light of everything else going on, both in the country and in the world, they don't put those rises through after all. But certainly the interest rates, with inflation as it is, they've got to do something to try and control interest rates. And the only weapon, blunt as it is in many respects, that the government have to control interest rates is actually inflation, rather. It is interest rates. You know, if you want to stop people from spending, you have to make borrowing more expensive. That's the theory. But of course, these days with everyone with a mortgage, that's a frustration because we all end up in the same position, paying more for our mortgages when perhaps we're not the ones out there spending. But there we are. That's life, isn't it? Unfortunately. Insurers are facing a storm cleanup bill of £350 million. That won't surprise you. As many of you will know, we have hundreds of tenants up and down the area in Croydon and Streatham and London as well. And we've got a lot of fences down. I mean, a lot. You know, we thought that the roofers would be the ones making the money after the storm, but let me tell you, it's the fencing contractors. There is so much work out there. The average claim for storm damage is £3,500. The other news, inheritance tax receipts soar by 700 million. Of course, when property prices go up, so the value of inheritance goes up and inheritance taxes receive massive amounts of money. They've soared by 700 million. That's nearly £750 million the government have got in inheritance tax receipts. For what? For nothing, actually. It's an extraordinary amount of money, and it's taken. Nothing you can do about it. It is what it is, but there we are. Buy-to-let investors in profit-taking boosts capital gains tax as well. So it seems that HMRC are winning on all fronts, and probably there's no better time for them to take some tax, one would argue, with everything that's gone on. But nonetheless, 20% higher than last year, the capital gains tax take. And that's because the surging property prices have led many, especially smaller landlords, to take profits and move out of the sector, especially when they feel unfairly vilified. But we won't go through that. We've done that many, many times. In Edinburgh, rental properties, a tenth of the stock in Edinburgh 10% of the whole of Edinburgh is owned by 15 landlords. That's extraordinary, isn't it? That's of all rented properties, 5,300, about 9% are owned by the same 15 landlords. Of these, 1,010 properties, a dozen landlords own more than 100 properties each. That's extraordinary, isn't it? Loads of money. So aside from that, some good valuations coming through today. There's lots of exchanges all of a sudden as well. I don't know why, but we've had a good month on exchanges. Sometimes when solicitors are really busy, it's hard to push them to actually make the exchange or do the work. And you really do have to push solicitors some. I'm not tarring them all with the same brush, but I'll give you a typical example. Last week, one of my clients sent back their inquiries, and the solicitor received those inquiries. He knew because he called the office. And then just after that, this week, we get a call from the other side saying he's spoken to the solicitor, and they say they haven't received the inquiries from the other side yet. When we inquired, it turned that they hadn't, because they hadn't sent them on, literally hadn't sent them. And when my client called them to challenge why they hadn't sent them on, because I thought, well, you pay the money for this solicitor, you're the one that needs to give him a kick because he's not listening to me. And my client called them, they said, oh yeah, I haven't been in the office, haven't received the post for a week. Really? For a week? That's crazy. And what are you doing in post? What's the matter with email? These people drive you mad. Anyway, in terms of the weather, chilly but clear here in Norbury, bit of blue sky around, and you do feel like, spring is coming. Somebody just called and rearranged the valuation for next week, and it was next Tuesday, which is Shrove Tuesday, the 1st of March. It's already getting to Easter, and it seems to have, you just blink and it goes, doesn't it? Or maybe that's just me because I'm getting older. Say as you get older, it appears that time is shorter because you've got less of it left. And I think there's probably an element of that, as attested by the amount of hair I got left on my head. Apart from that, I hope you're having a great day so far. And we'll be back tomorrow with another show as usual. If you do have any comments or anything you'd like us to add or talk about on the show, do give us a call. Of course, if you want more in-depth analysis on the property market, then we do have the Property Buyer and Sellers podcast, which you can find at jamesalexander.com. Just click on the link at the top for the podcast. Many episodes there with different topics, including energy saving. We've got 2 different energy saving podcasts there, and a lot of people are liking those and finding them quite useful and helpful. One with Dave Vincent, an expert in these matters, and then one with Bob Harris, also an expert more on the building technology side. So between the 2 of them, really interesting ideas and takeaways for everybody, from someone just looking to save money that doesn't have any to someone that wants to invest in wind farms and the like and get a return over a longer period. So do have a look at those. I hope you have a great day today. We'll be back tomorrow with another show. Until then, stay safe, look after yourselves, and if you can, your family and friends. We'll see you then. Ciao.